Hey y'all, this is Aemok,
Madam Hexe,
and kayce,
and this is Trouble Comes in 3. This podcast discusses scandalous topics like communication and sexual health, along with kink, leather, and ethical non-monogamy. If you're under 18, please leave us and check out scarletteen.com. For those over 18, welcome, and let's get naughty.
So today we're taking a bit of a turn for our content. Not necessarily explicitly kinky today, but kind of falls under our lifestyle category.
Yeah, definitely. And a little kinky.
It's
got a lot of tie-in.
Roots in kink, I suppose.
Yeah, and it falls into like the LGBT part of our podcast for sure.
And I mean, anything can be a fetish, so
That's fair.
literally we could talk about anything, and someone would be like, "Fuck yeah, I'm into that."
I mean, there's a reason I'm on a towel tonight, but
I mean, you showed up to our date last night, and I almost fell off the couch.
Which isn't inspiring for today's episode, is it?
right.
Well, I mean, yes.
Paint the picture. Paint the picture.
Madam Hexe, booty shorts, knee-high socks,
Black Converse,
with a giant, thick motorcycle between her legs.
Yeah.
in the rain, in the pouring rain.
It sounds
Because we're Florida.
a lot more risky than it should have been. But in my defense, it was not raining when I left. It just started raining immediately when I turned onto your street. But
It just find you wet and ready for
had
us.
like the tank girl cap on and everything.
Yes.
There was some hardcore tank girl action going on.
It was fun. It was fun. But you know, Aemok and I both, we like riding around with. How much did you buy? Kayce, 250, you said? What is your
No,
not anymore.
So currently I ride a Harley 883 Super Low.
Okay, that's right.
So
Yeah.
it's great. My original bike, which we'll talk more in detail later, was a Yamaha V-Star 250.
I love it. So in case you haven't guessed, the theme this evening is going to be like women bikers.
Yes.
A little bit of like MC history, women that have contributed to motorcycle history. I think we're only talking about U.S. motorcycle history though.
Correct.
Specifically.
Yeah, specifically U.S. stuff.
That's where we are. So I think that it's one of those categories, bikers, that is very male dominated. It's very macho, and we'll talk a little bit about like the machismo look and some of the issues we had with women trying to get into motorcycles, as well as like the imagery that goes with it, why some women are drawn to it and why some women are actually repelled by the idea of being referred to as a biker. I've known some women that are like, oh, I'm not a biker, I ride a motorcycle. I was like,
okay.
By definition, you're a biker.
Right.
Because you are a human that rides a motorcycle. So we'll talk a little bit about that, I think. But I think we can kick it off a little into like the history and iconic women in our world.
Yes. So we're going to talk specifically female.
Right.
So I came across a list of 5.5.
Yeah, half.
Yeah.
There's a half. Either individuals or pairs
Right.
of women who were, foundational. They were important pioneers within the sport of riding motorcycles. The first people that I'm going to talk about are Effie Hotchkiss and her mother, Avis Hotchkiss. So 1950, Effie is a Wall Street banking clerk who really wants to see America. She wants to see all the sights and all of this, all the way to San Francisco.
Coast to coast kind of.
Yes. After her father died, she took the inheritance that her father had given her, and with her mother's influence, decided to buy a motorcycle to do this, cross-country trip. Her mother then insisted on going.
Oh, I'm
Well,
sure.
I mean, what's she gonna do? She's a widow now. She might as well go.
It's 1915, widow. You're not going to know what's going to happen to your poor single daughter as she rides across
Right.
the country.
It was purely for her daughter's safety.
I mean,
Right.
obviously.
So,
Also, how exciting.
Right.
road trip. So they outfit her Harley Davidson with a sidecar, and off the duo go across the U.S.
And the sidecar, by the way, looks like a fucking carriage.
Yeah. No, that was a different...
No, but I mean, the thing
Yes.
of the timeline here, there's not the sidecar. I mean, sidecars today are still clunky, but they are not the sleek, modern looking.
No. This one kind of looked like a canoe.
Okay.
It
Maybe
really
it was a kid.
it could have been. I don't know.
Just put some seating fabric in
Right.
It was for mom. If mom was comfortable, that's all they needed.
Yeah, true.
So they drove across the U.S. and it took 2 months to make the journey from New York to California.
Pretty good, I think. For
Pretty good time.
getting the equipment they were using.
It was 5,000 miles. They got there. They waddled their toes in the Pacific Ocean. Then they hopped back on their bike.
Oh, jeez, and turned
And
right
we're
back
back
around.
And went home.
There was no plan. We just wanted to get there.
So they had left in like May. And they got back in October.
Okay.
Like, so I guess
That
they were there for a
would be a
little
great
bit in
vacation.
Right. I mean, what else do they have to do?
I mean, I personally would not want a 2-month-long road trip with my mother.
No.
But it could be fun. A solo cross-country bike trip is on my list of things to do.
It's on my list.
Yeah, so, well, you know, maybe I'll just go Tampa to Seattle. That'd be
Ooh,
fun.
right.
Ooh.
Right.
Gotta
I'll
take
go
you
ride
up there
with you.
anyways.
Yay!
I'll drive your stuff up.
Caravan.
Then, in 1916, there's a pair of sisters. They are Augusta and Adeline Van Buren. B-U-R-E-N.
Buren?
Buren.
I don't know. I mean, they're American, though, so I don't know. Buren? Van Buren, maybe, in English?
They are two socialites, basically.
Nice.
They're upper class New Yorkers. They can trace their lineage back to the 8th president. It's the whole thing.
Very posh.
Very hoity-toity.
Well, in 1916, two important things were going on. One, U.S. House of Representatives rejects a proposal to allow women to vote.
Fuck off.
No votes. They also are about to, the U.S. is also about to go into World War I.
Back-to-back World War time. I say from the wrong side of that war twice. That's fine.
So
I can say that because it was funny.
So the sisters are like 20. They want to be dispatch riders
Okay.
in the military. Like, that's their goal. So, to prove that they were capable, they decided to take a trip from Brooklyn to LA.
All right. Decent.
They rode 2 Indian power motorcycles.
American made. There you
Yeah,
go. See?
yeah.
Being very patriotic in a time of war.
They also rode in military-style riding uniforms.
So they were committed to this.
They were like, I want to do this thing. So they overcame lots of obstacles that had never been done by women before. Like the 14,000-foot Pikes Peak in Colorado.
Okay.
Had never been done by a woman before. And even though they finished their 3,300-mile quest successfully, their military applications were denied.
Oh, too dainty, I guess.
Yes. So the sisters are technically regarded as the first women to ride solo across the America on 2 bikes.
I gotcha.
As Effie and her mom
Were on
was one bike
sidecar.
with a sidecar. These 2 were 2 individual women trekking
Doing their
across.
thing. That's fun.
Right. Next was Dorothy Doc Robinson.
Yeah, girl.
Her father owned a sidecar business.
Okay.
And they originally were from Australia.
Nice.
There's a funny story where her mother is pregnant with her, and dad races the pregnant and laboring wife to the hospital
Via motorcycle?
via sidecar.
Oh, yes! She was literally born for this!
Yes. So when they came from Australia to the U.S., they opened up a dealership and a shop here, did motorcycles, so she grew up around it.
Yeah.
She did her first 100-mile endurance race in 1930. And then 6 years later, she decided to fuck the patriarchy
My favorite.
and compete in Michigan's 500-mile Jack Pine motorcycle run. This is kind of the equivalent of like the Daytona 500 of the times. It's a big deal. And a lot of people did not want her to ride. They fought adamantly that she should not be riding.
It's like the first female marathoner. They tried to pull her out of the race.
Yep. So she not only entered it, but then she won.
Oh, perfect.
Came in first.
She was like, I'm just going to take it home. We good.
That's the perfect fuck you of fuck yous.
right.
Not only did I finish, but I came in fucking first.
Yeah, I beat all of you. while being a proper fucking lady.
Right. Exactly. I hope she got done and like powdered her nose.
Right.
Oh my gosh. I mean, does anyone know? Did you powder her nose?
If you know,
Let us know.
Lie to me. I don't care. I just want to visualize it.
Right? She was also transformational in the history of women in motorcycles because she is one of the 2 individuals who started the Motor Maids, which Madam Hexe is going to chat about. Wait, no. Yes.
We're just gonna mention it because it's part of this history. It's part of history. Yeah. Like, so the Motor Maids were kind of like the first officially recognized and trademarked women's MC in the United States. So it's kind of like the big deal. You know what I mean? Doc Robinson and her counterpart Linda did work very closely with the founders of Harley Davidson in the early times to promote motorcycles to women. Mm-hmm. There were female riders, as we've been discussing. These are not the only women at the time that were riding motorcycles. But typically speaking, the women that were riding motorcycles were seen as undignified. They were seen as unladylike. They were obviously all lesbian and obviously all man-haters and very butch. And it wasn't an image that a lot of women at the time were comfortable embracing, even if they were interested in motorcycles as a sport or mode of transportation or leisure. Decided that she wanted to create a group that was sort of like the female pilot group that Amelia Earhart had put together in her time, but she wanted to do it for motorcycles. So it actually took a couple years to get enough women to say yes and commit and be a part of it. So Motor Maids was born, and they originally had 51 members their first year. But the important part of it was the image. They were pushing back really hard against the image of like the super butch lady biker. Yeah. They're my favorite, but it's fine. So she actually instituted like a uniform for the Motor Maids, and it was like a pink riding suit with white gloves. And if you see them in like formal events and parades today, because motor maids are still a thing today, they will wear their pink suits and their white gloves in formal parades only. So they're actually recently changed their uniform. Oh, did they? So a couple of years after the pink one was established, they changed it to where it was a blue and silver. A blue and silver. Because there were a lot of people who were not real thrilled about the pink thing. Right. Still had white gloves. The white gloves live on till today. But they moved to a blue and silver, and then they created the Motor Maids Incorporated logo that we're used to that looks like a shield. Because a lot of the women who were in it were dispatch riders or things like that. So they wanted to like tip the hat to the military service. Right. Recently, they've redone it again. I forget the actual year, but they've changed it to black pants, white shirt, and the white gloves. So I'll look like a server. Mm-hmm. That sounds terrible. But the point is they've pushed to try to be a little more inclusive over the decades. I lied. Black pants, blue shirt, white vest, white gloves. Still kind of looks like a server. Still looks like a server. But, I'm like, well, I'm not going to ride it, but I don't want to be a Motor Maid. Right. But, that's the kind of thing is there was kind of a push to, over the decades, for a more inclusive kind of feel. But originally they were founded to popularize, like, the feminine kind of biker. And that was kind of their key role, I think, as well as being the first women's MC, is kind of, like, allowing the image of society's impression of female bikers to kind of take on a different flavor that I hadn't had before. Yeah, and it was also, at that same time, in gay culture, you're dealing with the Mattachine Society, which had a lot of that same, like... We're just like you. We're just like you. Like, let's not rock the boat. Let's not... We just want to fit in. Right, right. And that was really controversial for a lot of people because they didn't want to assimilate. They didn't want to be... I am different. I want to live my life. That kind of thing. But so the last of our historical... badass ladies is Bessie Stringfield. Woo, baby. She was actually inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2002. Well overdue, I think. Significantly. After only 3 years of riding her motorcycle, she became the first African-American woman to ride solo across the U.S. Think about that for a minute. Bigotry, racism, sexism. And then you have, weather and road conditions. As well. On top of everything else, you have a motorcycle that you have to, sleep under. So she did this, but she not only
did this as a black woman riding a motorcycle. She did this as a black 19-year-old woman. Mm-hmm. So she is young, traveling across the U.S. in a time that's not safe by any stretch of the imagination.
For any of those demographics.
How many different things? So she ended up traveling all over the lower 48 states and served in World War II.
Pretty badass.
Mm-hmm. She was a dispatch rider for the U.S. military. Once the war was done, she came back to America. She moved down to Miami, and she founded the Iron Horse Motorcycle Club. She would do appearances and events and the whole thing. And in 1990, she was actually posted as one of the heroes of Harley Davidson.
Yes. Yeah, the MC she founded is now defunct, no longer exists, and is not to be confused with the Iron Horsemen. That is a very different,
yes,
very different group. But it is cool that she had that kind of impact. You know,
right.
That she really made.
I promise this is actually the last one. Vivian Bales.
Okay.
So this is a little bit later. Well, it's 1929, so it's not that much later than some of the others.
It's marginally later.
But Vivian Bales became the first, quote, cover girl.
Oh, yeah.
For the Harley Davidson enthusiast. So she did a 5,000-mile solo trip across the country and then wrote an article. It was a 2-page article where she described her experience and what had happened, which was actually also published in that same episode or issue. So not only is she someone who was photographed as like a woman on a bike, which I will say I'm not quite thrilled with the picture because
it's more wholesome than you think. It's a lot wholesome.
It's her on a bike holding like a bouquet of flowers with a bonnet.
Like, what, did she stop to pick them on the way?
I mean, maybe.
Again, but that's
I'm not going to ride around with like a giant.
Because these are like little, with the dog.
These are not little flowers. These are like branches with flowers on them.
They still had to make her look feminine and beautiful. So that was the important part, because men won't buy the magazine if she looks scary.
So along her trip, she made some really important stops, including Albany and Baltimore and Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm. Maybe that's what she had the flowers for. Yeah, Mr. President, can I please vote?
They're a little battered from the ride. Right. But yeah, so she actually got to meet the president, which was Herbert Hoover at the time, and she got to tour the White House, which is a whole like thing. The entire journey took 78 days. It's a hell of a long ride.
Yeah.
But I really loved the fact that she was not only the cover model, but she was also published. Her own writing was published.
Her journey, I think it was. I'm glad, because I'm like, I would have, if that wasn't the case, I'd be like, man, I'd love to have known her thoughts on those 78 days on a fucking motorcycle by myself.
I will say Harley has, from very early on in their history, they have promoted women and motorcycles, and not just sexy women looking cute on motorcycles. Even in like the 1910s, they had women featured as writers in their catalogs.
Nice.
So it wasn't super well known, but they have been, they worked with Motor Maids later on. They have been very supportive of women writers for a long time.
And they have a pretty extensive archive online as well.
They do.
So if you're interested in looking a lot of the stuff up, or seeing the old photographs, or maybe we've not confirmed yet if like their old magazines are digitized yet, but the online archive is quite extensive for Harley Davidson. So look it up.
We'll drop in the show notes for you.
Yeah.
They actually have an article right now about a couple of pioneering women that are Harley Davidson involved.
Perfect.
Literally on the very front page. Like when you go to harleydavidson.com, like
nice.
It's almost like they knew we were doing this episode.
Yeah, it's on the museum's like front page.
Perfect.
It's great.
Harley.
Sponsor us, Harley.
Right? I think we might be a little too foul-mouthed for that. But, I mean, it's fine.
Speaking of foul mouths.
Hi,
Kitty.
Hi, Kitty.
So I start to move more into kind of the present days of MCs and women MCs. And probably, at least from my standpoint, as not someone who actively rides, one of the more well-known MCs, Dykes on Bikes.
Yeah.
And so they started out by chance in 1976 because a group of 20 or so bikers ended up gathering at the head of the San Francisco Pride Parade. It grew into the late 80s, and they found that they needed to become more structured because there was so much growth in how many people wanted to participate that they had to have a structure in place so they could continue to do Pride. And out of that grew the Women's Motorcycle Contingent, or WMC. Their history goes all the way up until basically present day. They've been fighting for a lot of different things. In 2003, they changed the name to reflect history, but they became San Francisco Dykes on Bikes Women's Motorcycle Contingent. Mouthful. Dykes on Bikes had actually had to fight a lawsuit in order to trademark their name for non-commercial use against the U.S. Patent and Trademark because the office, and so they fought it for over 5 years, and they finally won it in 2008. Because...
I was thinking for a minute.
Right.
Not legally trademarked.
2008. They started in 1976.
You know why? Because dyke was a profanity.
Yep.
Never mind that there's trademark names with bitches in it.
Yes.
But,
right.
But it's because it was gay.
Right. And then now Dykes on Bikes is actually international. They have 16 chapters, and they span as far as England, Australia, and even have a chapter in Iceland.
Nice.
Right.
So, like, the one human that rides a motorcycle... No, I'm just kidding.
Just kidding.
I fucking love Iceland. I fucking love Iceland.
They're, like...
How much did it cost to import a motorcycle?
Oh, my God, yeah.
Oh, I don't even want to imagine.
Also, like, how long is the riding season there?
3 days. No. I think the summer... I think it's got much like Sweden. Like, the summer is, like, long, like, 24 hours of sunlight kind of thing. Like...
Yeah, I don't know if I want to be on the roads with, you know, people who haven't been sleeping well because there's no dark.
Blackout shades.
I don't know. But shortly after Dykes on Bikes, the Sirens Women's MC came about in New York City. They're the oldest standing female MC in New York. They were first founded in 1986, and they have been a long-standing part of the Queen's Pride Parade. And then one of the more recent ones I was able to find was founded in 2008. They are the Fat Bottom Girls of Atlanta, and they are the only active lesbian MC in Atlanta. They focus on being trans-inclusive, lesbian-led, and woman-centered.
I like that.
Yes.
That inclusivity has grown over the decades.
Yes.
Now, obviously, this is not a comprehensive list of women MCs in the world or in the U.S. It's definitely not. And riding clubs are a little different. Like, riding clubs are a little different than motorcycle clubs. Motorcycle clubs tend to be, like, membership-based, and there's usually, like, fees and dues associated and obligations for, like, you know, involvement. Riding clubs tend to be more casual, whether they're official or not. If you are a woman and you're in a motorcycle club or riding group, hey, reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you, I think. It'd be really fun to get to know you and kind of expand the audience. I think that's a good thing to do.
If you're in Florida, we might want to ride.
Yeah, right. So that's something, because as we mentioned before, Muck and I both ride motorcycles. She now has a car as well. And it was kind of necessity at that point.
Yeah. So I rode full-time, like...
A couple of years, yeah?
5?
Yeah.
Yeah, like 5 years. And then a couple of years ago, I moved out and I have 2 dogs.
Right.
And I moved into an apartment by myself. I didn't have a roommate.
Right.
So I needed, I call it my ATV. It's my animal transport vehicle.
Yes, there you go.
And then with my health stuff, some days riding the bike is just not possible.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not quite to the, I'm not to the point where I'm giving up my motorcycle yet.
Right.
Like, it's still very, I love it. I can still ride it regularly. But I did need to have a backup plan. So I have a cage, unfortunately. But it's a cute cage.
I mean, my slave has a car, so that technically I have a car. But my only mode of transportation that is legally mine is my motorcycle.
Yeah.
It's coming up on 3 years, I think, now with no car. Sometimes, though, like, being in Florida, people always message me on Instagram, like, oh my gosh, I'm so jealous of your year-long season. Okay, first off, you're wrong, because it is so damn hot. You cannot ride from, 7 in the morning until, 10 o'clock at night. You cannot ride. You will melt.
I've literally had
heat stroke and die.
my tire melt.
Into
and peel off.
I went to Bert's Barracuda with Shadetree and the friggin' kickstands were melting into the asphalt. We were only there for like an hour and a half. We do not have a year-round riding season. You are wrong.
I've had to dig my kickstand. The V-Stars kickstand is just kind of like a peg that comes out and has a very, very tiny
little foot. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I definitely had to dig that out of asphalt before because it melted into it, and the bike was stuck at a 45-degree angle into the asphalt.
Right. And not to mention the fucking rain. From what you think, like May through like October, it rains every single day.
Yeah. More like April.
Yeah, every single day.
Yep. And it's thank you to global warming. This is not a 3
not
to 4 every day that I grew up with.
No, it used to be like spot on, but now it's
4 hours, and it's like hefty thunderstorms as well. I don't know about you, but I do not want to be a little lightning rod on the highway.
And we live fairly in the grand scheme of things, we live fairly close to the coastline.
Yep. Right.
We are not, and we live in an old part of the city, so
which means
drainage.
It's a bowl.
Yeah, drainage is not real great around here.
My driveway, I park my motorcycle in my driveway now because the street floods. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of a pain in the butt because I have a very small driveway, so I have to do this weird 16-point turn to wiggle it out and turn it around because it gets stuck. Because there's the trees right there, so I can't get over the roots. I mean, I guess I could, but I'm not going to try. I am not that brave. We don't have a year-round riding season.
No.
But we do have friends we ride with.
We can year-round look at our bike and go, man, if it wasn't raining, I'd be riding.
Look out into the storm man, you look so good out there.
Right. The awkward sunburns we get in Florida.
Oh my God. You know what I'm going to bring up, right?
Yes, it's amazing and I love it.
I went riding with Flipna and Shadetree Surgeon, and I'm a spooky bitch. I'm a goth, and I, of course, had fishnets on under my t-shirt. I put sunscreen on. However,
for the summer sun,
the UV scale goes to 10. In Florida, it's always a 13, so there goes. And I had fishnet burns on my forearms for weeks.
Yeah.
I looked like a mermaid.
A really pretty mermaid.
Oh, God. I felt like a carp.
I regularly, especially when I was riding full-time, I was always out. I get triangles.
Where?
On my back.
Oh, because the shirt comes out.
No. Because
so you get a little tramp stamp of sunburn, do you?
Right, because, I've got my shirt on.
But it rolls up.
I have my jacket on, which I ride with a full-length jacket all the time.
She's better than I am.
I spent a lot of money on my tattoos, and I would hate to lose them.
Right.
But there are days that I'm like, I could wear a lighter jacket because my jacket is so stinking hot.
I do have a denim jacket. I wear the denim jacket for summer, and I have a leather one for the 4 days it's actually cold or when I travel.
Yeah.
But the thing about the denim jacket is because it's oversized and it's a man's jacket, when I ride, it inflates like a plane.
Oh, no!
So there's a lot of airflow, which is nice, but if you've been sitting at a red light, melting, marinating, and then you start scooting, all of your stink then circulates through your down and it's up through the helmet, and it's just like, oh. You're like, oh my God, do I stink that much? I literally carry a perfume stick with me when I ride, because
that's fair.
I go to smell like roadkill. It's terrible. Some guys are into it, but mostly it's like, ugh.
Yeah. But I, toss a book bag on it, head on out, and with a commute that can range anywhere from 45 minutes to
2 hours.
2 hours.
Oh, but you smell
on the regular. No, I didn't smell too bad because I do ride with the jacket open, so my boobs are screwed if I go down face first. But
there's enough of them.
There's a lot of them there. So
that's the airbag right there.
Yeah, but so I get these little triangle ones across my back. Let me tell you, they hurt so bad because it's just a constant everything
touches them.
And even if I pull my shirt down, I'm a curvier girl.
Right. It's going to roll.
But regardless,
it's gonna roll.
If you're leaning forward on a bike,
it's going to come up.
It's going to slide up, especially if you've got a back. Mm-hmm. The wind is hitting you. You're moving a lot, and I can't constantly...
Yeah, I tend to do the Urkel thing, and I will try to tuck in my t-shirt into my pants. I look ridiculous when I'm on the bike, but you know what? I have had one instance where I was going to Brass Mug for a show. This was a year ago before COVID quarantine, and you could go places and do things.
What?
I was going to go see a metal show, local metal bands, and I, looked good, I thought. But I had the crop top, and I had the fishnets underneath it, right? And I had a jacket, but it was open like you were wearing it because, again, it was not hot enough. to really wear the jacket, but it was breezy enough because it was like 10 o'clock at night or something like that. Didn't think about it. And then when I started riding, the crop top just like noodled up and was like became a scarf. So I'm riding open jacket just in the fish.
Tits everywhere.
But I wore a bra.
Okay.
I wore a bra because I was a little concerned. I was like, you should wear a bra. Because, like, sometimes the fishnet shirt and the nipple piercings are a little...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I get nervous about it. Sometimes I'll literally put pasties on if I don't want to wear a bra, but I want to wear fishnets because the piercings make me nervous sometimes. They're going to get jagged. But I thought, I'll wear a bra today. Good, because I was like going down the highway and looking at the officer like, hi, I'm decent, I'm legal. My crop top is like swirling around my throat like a scarf. Oh my god. Yeah, so wardrobe malfunctions on motorcycles are a thing. And oh my god, we're riding high heels though too, don't we?
We do ride in
Because
high
y'all are
heels.
badass bitches, and also it's hot as
That
fuck.
is my Wooloo trump card right there.
But I will say, my heels, while they are 4 inches high, without a platform, they're also oil and water resistant.
They're boots, yeah, like they're bike
They're
boots.
solid. They're solid. Thank you, Doc Martin, for making solid fucking boots.
Yes. I think mine are like, I think mine is Milwaukee leather or something like that.
My other ones are Milwaukee leather,
Yeah.
but I need to actually get them resold because
worn them out.
I wore them basically every single day for 6 years
I
straight.
know that life.
So they
My
wore
flat
it
boots are
legal.
worn out, but the high heels are hanging in there. They're called they think those are from Killstar, but those are actually, so they're not quite as sturdy, but they're called Winona Ryder.
I love it.
So I was like, oh,
I have to.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I like them because you just pull them on. They're not like, I don't have to lace them or anything like that. Not so great in the rain because then they just become bowls.
Yeah.
But other than that, they're fine.
Yep.
You're afraid of motorcycles. You had a bad experience, did you?
My entire dad's side of the family rides. And so it's like something I want to get over because I eventually do want to be able to go out and ride with them when I make it back up to visit them. I'm sorry if you're ever listening to this for any reason.
Ride with us. I mean,
Well, yes. I will ride with you too.
feel so hurt.
No, I was getting there.
It's because you don't like Shadetree, isn't it?
I love Shadetree. Sorry I haven't seen your nudes lately or ever, but love you.
Get on that, girl.
Next time I text him for the podcast. But so I had a love of motorcycles because I grew up like at pictures of me as a baby, like sitting on my grandpa's motorcycle. My mom's dad, so my papa, who passed last year, was like a daredevil rider. And he actually broke his collarbone 4 different times doing jumps and shit. And so I grew up having a love from it. There's this little, a little of a tangent, but there's this little like iron gold plated motorcycle that has like his riding name on it.
Aww.
From the 3rd time he broke his collarbone trying to do an Evel Knievel jump.
Oh.
They got it for him while he was in the hospital. And
That's
I
so
loved
sweet.
I
Sorry
loved
you didn't
that.
make it.
I love that thing. And he had those, so he was, he did a lot of his own photography. He like developed all the photographs himself. He had the darkroom and everything.
How is he taking photographs of himself while...
No, of other writers.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
I was like, wow,
That is
you got a
intense.
But,
like the fuse and run.
other writers, and he had one of those little eyeglass things that you put it to your eyes and you can look through the negatives.
Okay.
And so we used to sit there and look through those all the time
That's
together when I
fun.
was little. So I loved motorcycles. I always wanted to ride one. My fast forward like 8 years, my mom's then husband, who's a jackass, got a crotch rocket. And so back when you had commercial breaks on TV, and so you had some time to kill.
Wait, did you not know what that was?
No.
Oh, I thought you said, what's that? And
No,
was
I
like,
know what a crotch rocket is.
Yeah. Back when you actually had commercial breaks on TV and like time to do things.
Oh, yeah.
We were watching American Idol, and so on one of the commercial breaks,
Are
he's
you
like,
before Netflix was like, you still watching?
Right.
It's been 4 hours. What the hell are you at?
right.
How dare you?
At least wait until 8.
Yeah, how dare you?
Give me a whole work day.
Yes. But then, so he's like, I'll take you around the block real quick on it. So it's like, okay. Well, the jackass, when I asked him to slow down, decided to speed up and like try to pry my hands off of him because I was squeezing him to death, and I fell off the back. And then
I have a sissy bar. You can't fall off the back. I mean, you tip off the side, but you can't fall off the back.
Yeah.
And she's not going to push you off if you're squeezing her.
Right.
I can
No, I
pretty
know.
much guarantee that.
No, I know, but that like then instilled a great fear of all motorcycles for me. And so while I'll like, it's like my grandpa has tried to work me through it. He's like, well, just sit on it while it's running. I was like, that's fine, whatever. But I haven't.
It's when it's moving. That's the problem.
Right, and then so like I haven't actually ridden on one since then. It's something I want to get over, which luckily I have 2 great girlfriends.
Right. We'll get you there.
Right. And so I'm like, it's one of those things where like I have a love of bikes. It diminished for quite a few years, but since I was little, they've been a big part of my life. And so it's kind of one of those things where I'm like, feel a little out of touch with a part of myself.
Right.
But at the same time, it never really was a part of me. It was all just fantasies through past.
My mom used to ride.
That's awesome.
Like, and I have memories of being small.
Right.
Like, under 4 based on the house that we were in at the time. And like being on the bike and things like that. And
Exciting.
Sitting,
Yes.
And it was really exciting. But she got rid of it. Years later, I found out why. But it's because it was, she's not much taller than I am. She's about 5'5"-ish.
Oh, look at that.
I know. She's quite tall for our family.
Comparatively.
She is the tallest thing in our family besides Lily.
Nice.
But she couldn't reach the ground. So there's a whole backstory to that I'll tell you all later. But because she didn't feel confident or comfortable, she couldn't control the bike very well.
Well, if you get nervous, you're done.
Yeah.
You have got to keep your cool. That's the thing. I think if you panic on a motorcycle, 100% you're going down.
And that's why
100%.
she always really, really like instilled, especially because we are both short.
Yeah.
When I was getting a bike, I needed to get something that I felt comfortable controlling, and I needed to be able to touch the ground.
Yeah, fuck what anyone says about your bike. You've got to feel that you can control this thing as best you can. I mean, obviously you can't account for like random trucks, but like as far as like being in control of the vehicle itself, it's just like a car. Like don't get a vehicle you can't handle.
Right.
That's a safety thing.
She didn't pick it; an asshole did.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
But yeah, that was always. I remember at that young age, and then my entire life growing up, I was like, oh, I really love motorcycles. I'd love to get one.
I don't remember when my fascination with them started. I remember being little and like seeing them and hearing them, and they're cool. Like you hear them coming, and the people you see on motorcycles are powerful looking people.
I mean,
you are
and 2 of them sitting in front of me.
You know. Why do you get a motorcycle? Because you want to look cool. I mean, like that's
because you're a badass.
At least part of
bit.
it. Like if you sling your leg over a bike, you are instantly 3 times cooler than anybody else in the parking lot. Like period. I don't care. Yeah. Like if you have a grocery bag strapped to your back, you already cooler instantly.
I have literally brought home 10 or 15 grocery bags, plus 2 panniers, or saddlebags filled with groceries.
Yep.
And you know what? I'm still at 1, the rope skills involved, and 2, I'm taking all this shit on a motorcycle.
I look
Try to tell me I'm not fucking awesome.
One saddlebag will hold 20 pounds of potatoes, I learned.
Yes.
After going to Aldi. Because 2 of them, I buy 10-pound bags of potatoes because I'm German, so we go through them at an exorbitant rate. But they fit in the saddlebags perfectly. But kind of like Kaitlyn's story, my aunt, for whom I was a caregiver with my grandmother for almost 7 years or something. She's a paraplegic. She's blind. She has a head injury. She has use of her arms, but not the rest of her body. She was injured in a motorcycle accident. That's what did it. I mean, she became paralyzed and blind and brain damaged in a motorcycle wreck. And she was the backpack. She was not the rider.
Yeah.
Arguably, when I started riding, it's way more terrifying being a passenger. You have absolutely no control. And I get antsy on the bike. Even partners that have bikes, I get antsy because I'm like,
I just want to drive. You need my backpack.
So she was like this cautionary tale of like, this is what can happen. Like death, obviously, death is one thing.
Right.
But like to live then decades with the ramifications of a choice and things like that. But you know what? I think the reason I didn't become totally petrified of them, my aunt still loves motorcycles.
Yes.
She loves them. Like, when
I love her Harley Davidson shirt. She is just like, because it's sparkly
It's
too.
sparkles, and like, so it's like sequins. So she's blind, but she can feel the sequins, so she can feel the letters Harley Davidson,
Yeah.
and so she can still feel connected to motorcycles in that way. And I remember as a child, and she has a head injury, so she's quite childlike herself, and then she has like amnesia issues where she doesn't remember details of things. Like, her short-term memory is okay, but her long-term memory is kind of janked up. But when I was a child, we were out somewhere, and I don't know with the city we were in, I don't know if it was a bike fest or just happened to be a bunch of blokes rode in, and she obviously can hear the motorcycles very intensely because like her hearing is supersonic now. And she was very excited about it, and one of the bikers, like an older gentleman, saw how excited she was and stopped our family on the sidewalk and said, would she like to rev the engine? Aww. And yeah, I'm gonna tear up thinking about it. It's like, so, you know, and it's just, and she was so excited, like tears coming down her face. And I was a child at the time, but I distinctly remember that, you know, and it's in neutral, you know, but when she pulled the throttle and it roared, and it was just like, she could live for that moment.
Yeah.
Like for that moment, she could pretend. And when I got my bike, you know, I let her rev my engine as well. And when I would visit her, I always rev my engine 3 times really loudly to let her I'm there. And then when I'm leaving, that's kind of my goodbye to her is when I leave her house and stuff like that. So I think because she, despite her severe injuries and her life-changing consequences from being on a motorcycle, her love of them kind of made it like, you know, yeah, that is something that can happen, but if she can still love them, I feel like I'll probably be okay.
It's definitely a risk-aware situation.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, we all practice risk-aware consensual kink.
Risk-aware consensual life.
Yes. You know, that also applies. I do circus. I got severely injured. Yep. It was risk-aware. I knew I could get hurt. I ride motorcycles. I know I could die.
Yep.
Yeah.
I still ride motorcycles.
Right.
I will ride until I'm physically unable to.
Yeah.
Pretty much. That's my conviction to it. And also the biker look is just like...
It fits you very
like the
well.
classic, like we're talking like classic 1950s, 1960s biker look. You know, the leather, the jeans, you know what I mean? Like, the boots.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of
like
Tom of Finland sexy is kind of what we're going for, I think, most of the time. And the leather that I grew up in Germany was very much more biker themed. And you come from more like a military style leather.
So American leather came from military, which was also motorcycle.
Right.
Because they came back, there was such a plethora of motorcycles post-war.
Yeah.
You get them very cheap.
Right.
And so...
And also these people missed that camaraderie as well.
Yeah, they missed the hierarchy and the camaraderie and things like that. And so American leather and motorcycles grew up from a foundation that was very military.
Big cousins. They grew up together.
Big cousins, yeah.
They grew up together. Yeah, so like the look of it is like the motorcycle jacket, I think, is very like iconic. Especially like the looser kind of ones.
I'm all about the boots.
I love the boots. Yeah.
I'm always all about the boots.
That's why I bought my boy those engineer boots.
Yes!
They look so good too.
Oh, they look so good. I love them. I love a good boot. Oh, God.
But yeah, I love like my whole leather problem of being like just femme enough to make it awkward in a gay leather situation uniform-wise also applies to my motorcycle riding.
Tell me.
So when I took my riding classes.
Right. For the endorsement, you mean?
For my endorsement, yeah. To do my endorsement, day one you show up, we talk about like what's going on. They tell you what you need to have by day 3, which is the first day of riding.
Okay.
And I needed over the ankle boots. And I was like, shit, I don't have over the ankle shoes.
Right.
So I ended up looking for boots, and a lot of the boots I was finding were it was a very short term. I had 2 days to
I don't have a lot of time to be picky.
And I have child size feet.
You do have very small feet, right?
Like, it's a size 7. It's pretty much the same as a child's. So trying to find shoes that, 1, were small enough for me.
Right.
And 2, weren't hyper masculine.
Like super hideous.
Because
I think like a construction worker.
I found some gorgeous ones. Like, I found a couple of pairs I would love to have my Siren Alpha in.
Oh, right, but not
like
you.
But I wanted something girlier.
I'm a girl, damn it, I want something nice.
But what I was finding was, like, if you were looking for, like, girl riding boots.
Yeah.
Most of them are not actually functional riding boots.
They're backpack boots.
They're for backpacks, which, if you are unfamiliar, that is one of the terms used for somebody riding passenger on a motorcycle. They're really sexy and everything, but they don't even have they're not practical, and they don't even have skid resistance.
So what I'm hearing is I could get them.
You could get them.
So
my red bottom boots.
Yes.
They're technically classified as a biker boot, but with that platform, I can't get under my gear shift.
That's fair.
So it is not designed for the rider. But the Winona Ryder high heel motorcycle boots that I ride in, there's no platform, so I can fit my toe under and I can shift my damn bike. Yeah, you have to be aware as well. If you get the sexy cute ones, is you're going to be shifting your bike and you're going to fuck up that toe constantly. So that's why I like my bike boots. I don't necessarily wear to formal leather events, but if it's a kink event, I'll wear them because again, then it's the motorcycle look I'm using.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if I'm going to a formal leather, a covering or a party or a collaring, I'm going to wear my riding boots, my horse riding boots, the knee-high boots that they have not been scuffed, they have not been torn up by the gear shift, and they've been weather worn and all that.
The right toe of one of my pairs of boots is completely shot between the motorcycle and kneeling in gravel.
Oh, that's right. You did do that.
To do boots.
You did do that.
Yeah. But yeah,
these are the risks we take.
Right. It took a long time to find boots that were somewhat feminine. I didn't need pink and bells and whistles. I just wanted a little femininity in a boot.
That's my preference.
And it was hard to find something. It's very much geared towards, a lot of the gear stuff is men ride, girls look pretty.
Girls ride alone. Right. You're the passenger, you're not the rider.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I have you ever encountered, if you go somewhere, where they had a gas station or you go on a trip, have you ever gotten shit, because you're a chick on a bike?
Yes.
Do you get honked at? I get honked at a lot. And I'm like, am I in your lane? What do you... Oh.
So,
it's not a mean honk, but it's don't stop me.
Right. So I get honked at a lot. Yeah. I also get a lot of, which are kind of cute, especially if they are not being, intrusive about it.
Yeah.
But, 70-year-old guys in
pick up
trucks that are
get it, girl!
Right. Get it, girl. Or they just they're looking at me and I'm
nice.
looking around and they're they give me the nod.
Yes.
Yeah, girl.
I get a lot of the old man nod. I'll be on a red light and I'll be change my music or something because I attach my phone to my, because my bike it's stripped down. It doesn't have any radio or anything like that.
Right.
I have a Harley Heritage. So it's a big bike, but it doesn't have a fairing or anything like that. So if I'm at a red light, I'll be like, oh, skip that song because it's perched right there. I look over and they're roll down their window and they're like, yeah.
But I'm
thank you. As long as you're nice, that's mainly, I think they're complimenting, oh, there's an attractive woman on a motorcycle, but also they're probably really looking at the bike.
Right.
They're that's a nice bike. I'm like, thanks, bro.
I know.
I went to one of the first times I rode my motorcycle. I think it might have been the very first time I rode my motorcycle up to see my guys. I stopped at a gas station along the way because I didn't have a headset at the time. Mine had gotten broken.
Right.
But I needed directions to their house.
Yeah, that's kind of the tricky bit.
And so I stopped off because I needed gas. I wanted to grab a water.
Dig deep from the 90s on memorizing directions. I did that a lot until I was like, I can just buy a fucking mount. Why don't I just buy a fucking mount?
Yeah.
Before that, I was like, all right, left turn on this road.
Yeah. Yeah. So this was years and years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped at the gas station less than 15 minutes from their house. And I go in and I'm like, get my stuff. I come back out and this, I don't know you. There's no reason for you to talk to me. It's like, hey, baby, you need a man to drive that bike. And I was like,
fuck off, dude, bro.
I'm going to drive it over your foot now.
I told him he's welcome to ride, bitch.
Right?
Otherwise, shut up. And I got back on my bike.
Get on the back, bitch.
He was, no. But I get that quite a bit. Oh, well, you...
And also because you're small, too. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I look like I'll shoot you in a parking lot most of the time. But you're small. I mean, honestly, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you're tough looking. But
no,
you're small stature.
I'm tough looking because I'm on a motorcycle.
Right.
I am not
motorcycle does
it. I will totally admit, I most probably look like a funny marshmallow because my riding jacket is white.
Oh, that's true. It is. Yeah, it is.
White.
Yeah.
I'm big. I look like the Stay Puft marshmallow rider.
That's why you're so delicious.
Maybe I'm toasty a little bit.
I'm toasty now.
But so I'm on a smaller bike and I do get a lot of people who compliment it and are really excited about it. But then I also get to be like, oh, but you have a girl's bike.
Well,
And I'm like,
well, I'm a woman. First off, so what is that? It's not an insult,
right?
First off.
Yes, it is a girl's bike. It's owned by a woman.
So therefore.
It is my bike. You are correct. I am a leather girl. Also
Right.
correct on that part. But it's like, because it's small. I'm like,
But I'm small.
one, it's small, but it's a 883 super low. That is not the base.
It's leaks about that 250 in size.
leaps and bounds from my 250, which even that one, like, the majority of the people who talk down about the size of my motorcycle are either
Don't even own a motorcycle.
guys who don't own or ride,
Yeah.
or have never owned or ride,
Fuck up.
or guys who feel threatened by
Right.
chicks on bikes that have that, like,
I bet you own a trike.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, fuck
it's that,
off.
like, girls' place on a bike isn't to be
Yeah.
riding it. A woman should not be handling the bike. They should, So, especially because I am short, that does get mentioned a lot. And like, oh, that's so short. I'm like, it's perfect for me. So shut the fuck up. Like,
Yeah, like-
Right.
Sorry, you have to duck to get into buildings, but like...
and it doesn't matter what size the bike is.
Yeah.
Like, if you're riding, especially in Florida, because driving here is treacherous.
Yes.
Smaller sometimes better to get between so you don't get murdered.
Yeah, like, anybody who's on two wheels, I give props to.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I've had a couple good experiences though. Like I did a solo trip to North Carolina like a year ago, maybe it was by now. Who knows? A friend of mine was like, I'm having a baby shower. I'm like,
Okay.
this is like a road trip to me. It's an opportunity
Yes.
to take this bad boy out for a nice long road trip by myself. So I took like a couple days. I made it like a trip.
Didn't you have the stuffy tied to the
I was
bike?
on my back, yes. The girls there gifted me a giant pink stuffed flamingo that was my passenger for the whole way back. So Pinky kept me safe the whole way.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, so I looked like a real badass bitch.
Pink
Like
flamingo.
toddler-sized flamingo tied to my motorcycle. And people on the way back were looking. They're like, ah. I was like, what are they laughing?
Oh, yeah.
Forgot about the flamingo. He was also my excuse not to pick up that hitchhiker who was like, oh. I was like, oh, you see, the back seat's taken. You can't do it. But I was riding out and I was stopping in. I want to say on the way back I stopped in Atlanta, but I think I stopped somewhere in South Carolina. And it was like I'd have like another like 6 or 7 hours the next day to get to the baby shower in time. But I was like, I need to rest. I don't make because I'm by myself, so I don't want to ride more than like 8 hours at a time.
That's
'Cause
fair.
for me, that's kind of my limit on like awareness and comfort. And if I have to get up the next day, do it again.
Yeah.
And also it was like fucking freezing, fucking freezing, especially at like 90 miles an hour. But it was late, and I had like checked into my Airbnb, and I was like, man, I just want to get a beer. I want to get some fucking food. So I left the Airbnb to like, I picked up some food, and I ate it there at the it was like a Subway or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I ate there because I want to sit in a chair and eat
Yes.
the food. And then I went to I was like, okay, well, I'll pull into Walgreens because it's like right on my way back, and I'll get like a big 40-ounce something because they sell beer at the pharmacies in America. Because good for you.
We do some things right.
Something's fine. Like, I can get beer at the pharmacy. This is fantastic. So I'm pulling into the parking lot, and I'm exhausted, and I fucking hit this hole. And as I pulled into the parking lot, and I laid out the whole bike. The Heritage is a big boy. It's about 800 pounds, and I'm exhausted. And I pulled in, and this guy in a truck pulled in next to me. I was like, oh my God. And I'm like, don't cry. Don't angry cry, because he's going to say something stupid like, oh, you need help, little missy. Because I'm, in the bumpkins.
Yeah. Right.
And I was like, prepared myself. And
You
then,
put that guard up.
Right.
I was
Like,
ready. I was ready to receive whatever stupidity was coming out of his mouth, and shame on me as well, because he was like, "Oh, girl," he was like, "Shit, I hit that hole yesterday on my bike. Let me help you out," and like just helped my bike up, and like didn't say anything after that. And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm a bad human for judging you. I'm so sorry. But your truck is lifted, so I had good reason."
Right.
We get it so frequently that you brace.
Yeah.
You hope for, but you brace.
You have to,
Right.
like, statistically speaking, he was going to make a snide comment. So it was very nice. He was just a nice guy, and he was, like, probably, like, in his early 30s, and was like, I literally hit that hole on my bike the other day. Let me out. I was like, well, good. I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Right.
Can I buy you a beer in Walgreens?
So my 250, loved that little Yamaha. I had driven it about an hour out of town to go visit a friend of mine. And I'm leaving her place at like midnight.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, fuck. The chain is messed up. It was a chain drive. Mine now is a belt drive, but that one was a chain drive. But I could feel that it wasn't.
Yeah, you can tell.
So I'm sitting in a Walmart parking lot because it's the only place
out
there that is lit,
mm-hmm.
semi-monitored,
mm-hmm.
and weird enough that I could sit in the parking lot and work on my motorcycle. Because I kept for that bike, I kept a toolkit with me. Because little things needed tweaking here and there. And so I was fighting with the chain, and the tire shifted a little bit. So the whole wheel shifted a little. I was like, God damn it. Because I wasn't strong enough to pick up the back end of the bike. Hoist it up to like,
wiggle
and
it.
at the same time also
adjust
the tire back in. Because that's actually, I was doing it and then it shifted and then I tried to do it, but I cannot lift the motorcycle and shift it because
it's a two-man job.
I mean, it was a 400-pound bike.
But again, you're a small woman.
But I'm a small woman, and it's late at night, and it's dark. So also doing all of this in the dark.
Right.
And two bros.
Like the alarms in your head are going off. Like, go.
They rolled up beside me in a Jeep.
You're like, oh God.
Sides down.
Oh no.
And I was like,
oh God.
I'm just like
preparing
it's late.
yourself. Please don't.
It's late. I'm frustrated. It's
like,
cold because it was winter time, so it was Florida cold, and I was just like, I'm miserable. All of this is miserable. And they're like, "Do you need some help?" But it wasn't with that like, "Hey, you need some help." It was like
legitimately, do you require assistance?
And I was like,
yes,
actually, I do. I was like, great. You stand here and hold the front end of the bike. You pick the back end of the bike up, and I'm gonna adjust this. And then we're all going to set it down softly together while I turn it.
Right.
Yes.
And I completely had the same, like, oh shit.
Like, this is about to be a thing.
You know, and then you're like, well, no, I feel like an asshole. But in my defense,
you get it so often.
99 out of 100 times that would have gone the other direction.
Well, I mean, like, it's not much of a comparison, but, like, even when I had my truck, I got the same shit.
Oh, yeah, because the truck is the same thing. Oh, that's a men's vehicle.
Well, because people think it's motorcycles, trucks, they're masculine.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a vehicle.
Yeah, so the first time I was changing the tire on my truck, granted, I got my truck as my first vehicle. I was like 17. Like, I get the same shit for that. And so I can only imagine it being so much worse on a motorcycle.
There's nowhere to hide. I can't hide in my
car. I can't roll up the windows.
Can't roll up my windows and lock my door. I don't have any.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh my God. Although one more funny anecdote about, like, fun girl stuff being a biker. I had, like, was that like a Chipotle or something? I don't know. Getting lunch, whatever. I don't know. Stuff in my face, like usual. And I'd parked my bike out there, and there were these little kids, and like I guess the mom in the car, and I guess Pops was like in Chipotle picking up their food and gonna bring it out to them. And I come out with my bag or whatever, and I walk up to the bike, and I'm putting it in the saddlebag because I have those. And the window's down for the children, and the little girl like looks at her brother and goes, "See, I told you, the lady's riding the bike." And I was like, "Yeah."
Like, you tell him, baby.
And he was like, and it was like really cute. Like, I love seeing little girls that are like, excited to see you on a motorcycle. If I see them, and I will rub my engine for them. Absolutely. They'll be like pointing and they're excited. It's just, I don't know. It's like, it's good to inspire
encouragement.
Them. Yeah.
I love it because I wear a full face helmet.
Right.
And for the most part, I wear a tinted visor on it. So like, you can't see my face.
Can't see my face.
All.
But dim titties.
Dim titties are a thing, but jacket, sitting down, it's hard. Yeah. It's sometimes hard to tell.
Yeah.
My gender when I'm seated on the motorcycle riding into someplace.
Yeah.
But it's great when like little kids are really excited because there's a motorcycle. And then like
and
then they take my helmet off and my like purple or green or whatever
long
flowing hair falls out of it. And they're like,
oh my God,
Mom, Dad, do you see the girl motorcycle?
Yeah.
Like, yes.
Get excited, baby.
I live for these moments. I think when I first got my heritage, I was at a red light about to get on the highway, and I was like, man, if little me could see me now, she'd be so damn excited.
I have a picture from one of my old neighbors from the last complex because their daughter would park her tricycle in the same spot as my bike. And I was like, oh my God, this is so wholesome because I knew whose it was. And I was like, oh, yes, sweetie, share a spot with me. We can double up on the parking spot.
So cute. Oh my God. gosh, I love that.
Yeah.
And we've done, just to kind of like, I think it's final thoughts, yeah? Are we at that time? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yep.
I was thinking ways to get involved nowadays. Writing groups and stuff like that, real quick. Because we ride with some friends in Ybor City.
We do.
Dangerously. No. That was our own.
That's dirt road.
Oh.
So,
Shadetree, please stop taking me down dirt roads.
You know he took us on a dirt road that other time, too.
I don't know his fucking directions.
We love you, though.
It's always an adventure when we ride with him.
Absolutely. Him, Flip, the whole crew. Like, it's a lot of fun.
So, for me, I was in a couple of Facebook groups. Mm-hmm. I had to kind of test waters in a couple of them because I found that some of them are super, like...
machismo.
Not just machismo, but, like, women writers weren't really supported. And, like, gay.
Writers.
Like, if you were queer or a female or anything, you just, like... If you believed in, like, human rights, human dignity... there were a lot of, and that's, I think a lot of people think of when they think of bikers, writers and bikers, people who identify as bikers specifically, is that, you know, they're all these like rough backwoods, grumbly.
Oh, I hate that. Yeah.
We're not. I am neither rough. Well, I mean, unless you ask me, that's a different type of rough.
I'm a different kind of rough.
And
different kind of rough.
We only play in the backwoods when we're tying up and beating the kitten.
Exactly.
But so it took a little while to find groups that I could stay in that felt comfortable. I didn't do a ton of group writing until we started writing together.
Right.
Just because I write all the time. I have a lot of like...
Yeah. And when you're a daily rider, it's a different feel too. Because like when you ride your bike every day, like whether it's for commuting and stuff, to then be like, oh, you know what I should do on the weekend? Ride my bike some more! And it's like, I'm into that shit because then it feels different. Because now it's fun.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that are like...
It was more like I'm just very nervous about... Because I will 1,000% admit... I was concerned about trying to go out riding with any of the groups because I do not find myself fitting into the, like, aesthetic of a biker chick.
Okay.
And
are you talking about, like, the Budweiser, Harley Davidson girl kind of aesthetic? Or more of, like, are we talking about, like, the angry butch lesbian
No, the, like, I'm a badass, I'm really pretty, I ride my bike, I take no name, like...
I mean, that's basically you.
I mean, you are those things, but
I did not feel those things.
That's different. That's different.
I did not feel those things. And so I kind of avoided it, but I did find some friends who rode and things like that I did go out on stuff, and then we go riding with the group up in Ybor, which is super fun.
Yes. And random, like random. Sometimes it's like
so random.
1 o'clock at night. Sometimes in the morning.
Our first ride was
a midnight
stands up at 11:30, which really ended up being stands up at midnight.
Well, we had to get a pint first. I'm just kidding. We had a pint after the ride. We did not do that. That would be terrible. Because I was working late in Ybor that night, and then I was like, "Hey,"
and I'm a night owl. And I was like,
"If you're awake,
I will be there in 20 minutes.
If you're awake and you want to go riding, I don't know. We're just doing a big ass loop. I think we looped to like St. Pete or something.
Yeah,
we went down I-4 first. And
you did the Skyway.
We did the Skyway loop. So it was I-4 to 75, 75 275 to Bradenton.
Yeah,
catch 275 and take the Skyway back up. And then stopped in St. Pete.
Right, had a pint and then walked off.
Did not have a pint.
Did not have a pint.
Definitely didn't do that. And then
back home.
Back home.
Pretty
much, yeah. It was fun. It was good.
It was fun. It was gorgeous. It was such a pretty night. Stars.
Oh,
that was actually like exactly a year ago.
It was. The memory just came up.
The memory just came up.
Yeah, I needed to get out for personal reasons, but yeah, it was definitely.
Yeah,
it was perfect.
But
nothing like a little wind therapy for you.
Yeah, I think for me, my recommendation, if you want to get involved, is try to connect with some people in the area.
Yeah.
Look for. I found the women writing groups or the queer writing groups, because there are a couple of them.
Yes.
Were better places for me personally to try to like connect with people to be bike friends.
Right, exactly. And if you're like someone who's just looking for a group to ride with, we're not talking about joining an MC or even a formal riding club. Those things you have to pursue with those individuals specifically, and that's a whole different. Everyone's got their own different standards and membership requirements and all that. But just like people that love motorcycles and want to go riding, and that's why you get together. I agree. If you can. I mean, right now there's like the pandemic and all the bars are closed, so you can't really. Ordinary, I'd say go to a bar where you know bikers go.
Yeah.
And bikers that are not affiliated, like unaffiliated bikers go. Like people just have motorcycles, they like to ride. And I know it's hard, like, so you can start a conversation. That's actually how I got involved with the folks at the Dirty Shame. Is I went to the Shame, you know, like usually Wednesday nights after I got
Whiskey
done.
Wednesdays?
Whiskey Wednesdays, yeah. I'd have a pint, I'd have a whiskey, and just hang out for like a couple hours and then toddle off. I was there one night and a guy saw me come in because it was still winterish, so I had like the leather vest on and the helmet, and came in and he's like, "Oh, do you ride?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, can I see your bike?" And I was like, "You know, try to murder me in this alley?" I am not unarmed, sir. Please do not make me do this. But I had been going to the Shame enough to like to know the bartender, but like we weren't like close friends yet. And I was like, "You know this motherfucker?" And he's like, yeah, it's fine. I said, "Okay. Will you come with me?" Showed him the bike, and he told me about, they had like a Facebook group at the time, and that's how I kind of got to know the folks there and stuff like that. And then at the time, it was so funny at the time, he was like, "Oh yeah, and the bartender has a YouTube channel." I was like, "Okay, that's cool." I didn't look it up, didn't do anything. I was like, okay. I mean, like,
and now you're regularly on it.
now we're on the YouTube channel sometimes. So it was just kind of funny that like little happenings like that. But I agree, Facebook pages or Instagram, whatever groups meetup groups. I think Meetup is still a thing. Maybe an app.
I'm never on.
Yes,
I used to. I've had some success with that. But there's no like accountability. But there's no accountability with like a Facebook group either, I guess. But you go and, you know, if it's not for you, just fucking leave. And be like, not for me. Try a different group. And you can, like you said, you can get a sense for the type of people that are in there by scrolling through comments, by scrolling through posts, and get an idea. Like, if these are not your people, then you don't want to ride with them.
Right.
Because they're just not your people in general. You know,
Yeah.
So find your niche, find your corner, and I mean, I don't want to like throw everybody under the bus here, but like if you're in the area, we'll ride with you. Or, you know, we'll ride with you. We like to do that kind of stuff. So, yeah, go get a motorcycle.
So, because I do want to get back into it, what I'm feeling is a follow-up episode after my first experience back on a bike.
We should do that.
Yeah.
Oh, we should film that. We'll get the
Shadetree
GoPro.
wants to film it.
Yes.
Shadetree wants to, yeah. So
Yeah. Do you want to be on his bike or ours?
probably yours. Not that I don't love you, Shadetree.
She's like, I'm terrified.
I'm terrified, and I'd feel more comfortable on my girlfriend's bike.
Oh, you don't want to be on that Goldwing?
No. I can be the ducky's buddy though. I'll sit on it to look pretty and pet the ducky, but then I'll get on your bike to ride.
So, confession, while I have a second seat on my bike, I explicitly did not buy pegs because I wanted to be able to legally be like, "Oh, sorry, you can't come."
do it.
But
that's fine.
Kitty, you make me want to get pegs.
Just put your legs on her shoulders.
I mean, it's about the same height. Come on.
Maybe, but yes. So look for that sometime, maybe.
Oh, we should definitely, we should do that
we should
together.
do that.
That'll be fun. We'll do
be
like a
fun.
cross episode. That'll be fun.
That'll be a lot of fun.
So definitely go get a motorcycle, go have fun, and remember,
Trouble comes in 3.
And get fucked.
Oh, that was a gentle one.
We're dainty bikers.